Hello, everyone. Very happy to have another young Indian with us, part of the Voice of the Young series. Right now, we have with us Shreyaas Prakash. Let's listen to him. Over to you, Shreyaas.
Good morning, Professor Mathur. I'm here from Melbourne, and it's very nice to be here as a part of your Vidped series, and very grateful to how you have been able to feature the stories of young people's voices being put forward. Well, today I'm here to share about something which has always been a significant impact until today for me through what I could create through a brainchild in my life. And I think I've spoken about this in many places, but then I would like to always talk about this, experience, which is always an amazing time to share with anyone. And I'm sure this was a big coincidence in my life, which I never expected it to come out. I'd like to share about starting with my own NGO, Project Bodhan, which I started back in 2019. Well, I think it was during my undergrad days where I was having my break, my midterm break. And at that point of time, I always wanted to know how, as a student, as a young student, I could be a part of NGOs, clubs, societies, and everything. And I would always look upon to people who are doing some good work and some, exemplary work as well. And finally, one day, Bodhan came into my life, which was something which I never knew about a topic that was about sex education and mental health, a topic which I never studied before. And this was totally an experience for me altogether in terms of understanding what Bodhan was all about. So it was just a small WhatsApp group where we met on Instagram, us being added, group of collective people who came forward, and I started researching more about the topic as well, because to understand these important topics such as mental health and the taboo behind it and everything, they say you need to be a qualified certified psychologist, have posh POXO training certifications and everything. But I started everything with ground zero, with nothing. And this is something which was always a initial you know a kind of uh, I might say it's a big challenge for me in my life initially to start off, because it was not very easy. And as I speak, I'd like to share a couple of points how things went well.
Yeah.
Well, it came to a point where I used to travel with my family for some long vacations to overseas, back to few years, and my parents would always say one thing to me is that try to get a good job that could earn you money. And what would you do with NGOs and everything? Is there any future with NGOs? And during vacations, what I would do is that I would be busy in, you know, understanding what Bodhin was all about, forming teams, trying to figure out what needed to be done for an NGO to be set up. I was one showing active interest among, like, say, around 150 people or something. And slowly, all the 150 people started reducing, leaving the group one by one, one by one. But still, my hopes never lost. I thought, okay, was this kind of a group that was just being formed for people to come about and talk about a topic with zero community action, and then everyone started leaving? And that only person who was left out was just me at that point of time. I think we are talking about the peak after a couple of months, from which I got to know Bodhin later too. And after that, the best thing, one thing was how to start an NGO was always in my mind. I never knew what is the process, what are the formalities to go about. With zero knowledge, I had to start off with contacting some mentors in my life. So mentors were the people who could help me in guiding through what was the right steps to, inculcate a structure for Bodhan to start off with. I had zero volunteers, zero budget, none of the support, no physical space. There was no proper vision for the NGO. Everything was just, displaced here and there. And it needed all the blocks to come together. Well, the very first person I contacted was one person who I strongly remember and was a good support. His name was Dr. Vasu. He worked with Nimhans previously, and he was referred by one of my professors back in undergrad, and he joined. as a chairman of Bodhan. And I would remember those days when I had the very few advisors and chairmen. I would need basic expenses for some registration costs as well, like my logo, the patent logo. And I think back then I was a student, my budget was less. I would take some support from my parents, and I knew they would also contribute. And in fact, they contributed as well. Advisors contributed with their own pocket expenses to help me in supporting and getting a patent registered. And today I can proudly say, from a TM sign to a R sign, Bodhan has its own logo today. And it's
Mm-hmm.
being registered under the government of India, that no one has the rights to use or could do copyrights of what Bodhan is doing all about. So we
Okay.
have our own logo that is a brainchild, and the brain has all over the sun rays that comes over. This is to say that Bodhan can change the perspectives of people and
Mm.
can, brighten the future of young minds. That
Okay.
was the whole idea why we inculcated towards setting up this own idea. So from a project to a foundation to Bodhan Foundation today, which is one of the international recognized foundations, is something which was a dream come true for me
Okay.
together.
Yeah, wonderful. So,
Well, one more
go ahead.
instance I'd like to share, if I may go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Apart from setting up everything, I always would look up on to who would be joining me as speakers, ambassadors, advisors. I would have the very first call with some doctors and senior people, and they would always say me that, is your NGO registered? How much are you going to pay me? That would be the first question that's going to come forward, because people knew my situation and they would probably exploit me in the right way. I needed volunteers. I
Yeah,
needed interns very much.
yeah.
Zero support. One day, um, I got a call from the Vice President of India's office when Shri Venkaiah Naidu was the former Vice President of India. And I was being told that um, he's coming over to Raj Bhavan in Chennai. And can you make it over here to come and present your portfolio? I was being called over by his OST. And I just went forward, showed about Bodhan, spoke about Bodhan, and got a good session. I think it was 10 a.m. in the morning, Professor Mathur, when I posted my first photo on Instagram. Back to 2 years back to that 10 a.m., I think close to 100 to 150 people have rejected me in terms of joining Bodhan, understanding that what they could benefit rather than Bodhan could benefit.
Yeah.
And the surprising thing was, after one photo of being recognized by the senior most person of this country, the Vice President of India, I started getting calls from everyone
Mm.
saying that, how can we contribute to Bodhan? How do I join Bodhan? Now, this was one thing which I never expected the former Vice President of India would ever be there to see Bodhan. I would get to meet him. I would get to present my portfolio as well. So it was a very, unexpected thing altogether that could fall in my life. And today I can proudly say that we don't just have only volunteers, global volunteers, but in the last 2 years, we have partnered up with a online law school company, and we have been providing law internships. So many law students from different parts of the country in different universities, national law schools, have been interning with us on research levels. And we have catered more than 100 to 150 law internships. And we have done like proper recruitment process, given the best of letter of recommendations. Today, some of our international volunteers are studying at the best universities like Cornell University, University of Pennsylvania. So they all have gotten international exposure virtually. So this is about a small stint about what could change in my life, and today where I am as a policy professional and a development sector professional as well.
Mm-hmm. So, what's happening with the NGO today? Where are you with it?
Today, the NGO completes 5 years
Yeah,
and couple of months with
yeah,
its proper this one. We today haven't been able to do a lot because since I moved for my master's in Melbourne,
yeah.
we haven't really done much work at the moment. So we have been doing some international partnerships where Bodhin can get accredited and associated with certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, I was appointed as the chairperson for international relations and education programs at this organization called as International Women's Technology Research Forum.
Mm-hmm.
So Bodhin was successful in collaborating for a partnership with them to
Mm-hmm.
do a higher education webinar
mm,
on Australia for Indians, where we had like more than 80 to 90 girls joining us from India.
mm,
And most of them had the chance to have an interaction with a lot of Australian professionals,
mm,
professors, and policymakers as well.
mm,
So Bodhan is trying to associate itself wherever it could and could do some consultancy projects as well.
mm,
Although we have not had a very active team in the last couple of months due to my commitments in a different way. But
mm,
then the truth is that there has been some long lasting work
mm.
where I look forward to in the future for Bodhan to come up as more of an educational institute. So
Okay.
I have the vision of setting up an education institute in the
Mm,
near future
mm,
if things happen in the right way.
mm,
And under the foundation, which is a trust right now, we would
mm.
like to, bring this umbrella forward and see what could be, potential aspects of looking
Okay.
at.
Okay. Could you give an example of something you are really happy with that you did that output, not setting up things only, or some output or outcome that you are planning in
Well,
this?
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely,
okay.
absolutely. Like the outcome was something during COVID. I'd like to share. I think during the pandemic, it was a very, very devastating situation for us, all of us, physically and mentally. I'm sure all of us have been through this, and one of the biggest pandemics in the entire century, I would say. Well, Bodhan was very successful in doing some good mental health workshops
Mhm,
online.
mhm,
We started realizing people started facing a lot of mental health disorders. We
mhm,
wouldn't say disorders, but issues like OCDs. People started having different breakdowns. People
mm,
who were also contacted with COVID as well also had to recover mentally as well. Now we did a very good impact, which was called as Amaya. Amaya was a 3 days carnival that was being set up. We brought forward with some organizations and partnered with some clubs in Rotrack. So we
mm,
had some partnerships with Rotrack during COVID as well,
mhm,
where everything was completely online.
mm,
Now, Amaya was being composed at its first edition of
mm,
introducing a 3 days workshop. And
mhm,
this was something which was curated with recommendations of some senior mental health professionals, the outcome
mm,
could come out like.
mhm,
So the first day was called as sitting drums,
mhm,
and the second day was sitting dance, and the
mm,
third day was mural art. Now we called all the artists who are senior people, who are like the young people, I mean the Instagram
mm,
creators, digital creators and
mm,
influencers,
mm.
to request them to join as resource persons and do that. And people just had a very change in mind. I mean, look at that, everyone were blocked by four walls in the house in their room, and they were enjoying this entire session together. So
Yeah.
imagine that me
Yeah.
dancing in the room, just sitting and dancing and following some steps, or
Yeah.
listening to drums, or maybe following the mural art, which I've
Yeah.
never learned about. And the outcome over here, what you were asking about, people started following that and posting on their social media and tagging artists and Bodhan, saying that this was one outcome which I learned during
Yeah.
COVID, thanks to Amaya. So Amaya was a very successful way of a very good mental health workshop that turned out to bring out a lot of good wellness around
Yeah.
everyone.
Okay. Wonderful. I'm really impressed by what you did. Uh, could you tell us whether you had any key collaborators or people who made it happen with you?
Well, yes, that's certainly right. We had a lot of collaborators and at very different events and conferences. I think one of our biggest collaborators was the UK embassy at Ahmedabad in Gujarat office, where we had His Excellency the High Commissioner to come forward and join us for a panel discussion on LGBT rights and queer rights.
Yeah.
And UK embassy was being focusing on that and climate action. Like every embassy has some certain commitments when they're put up in the Indian land to focus on certain things. And we also had some collaborations in the initial days with the UNESCO World Heritage Program as well.
Mhm.
So we had collaborated with an NGO in Ahmedabad where we would be resource persons in promoting this UNESCO World Heritage Program of this NGO, particular NGO forward, and we would connect with university students and volunteers who are interested through social media to come forward and register for this program. So this would be like a immersion program, a cultural immersion program, where people would meet each other from different countries, and they would go to the historical sites which are recognized by UNESCO. So Bodhan was one of those implementing partners in a very early phase.
Okay.
And we also had some collaborations on vaccines with WHO and UNICEF as well.
Okay. All right. Now, where were you operating in India? All of India, parts of India? Where was your action?
Well, my entire action was from my home itself, from my own study table to my
No,
chair,
you
sitting
operated
there
from
and then
there, but
working.
where was the target?
Absolutely. The entire target was pan India. We
Okay.
were working all four corners,
Yeah.
north, south, east, west.
Mhm.
We did not have any ambassadors. We did not have any employees or volunteers. We had our partners executing it.
Yeah.
So what Bodhan would come like is, if we had to collaborate with an organization or NGO, Bodhan would be more of those resource persons and curating the entire idea. And the
Yeah.
execution of the team members and setting up the things, whatever needs to be done would be done on the other side. So it was always a partnership understanding through an MOU that was always signed in terms of designing what activities that organization needed and Bodhan could cater. So Bodhan had its speciality of bringing resource persons forward, because many people were in need of resource persons, where Bodhan had the right set of resource persons as well, not just related to mental health related, but also we had resource persons related to leadership, skill development, policy professionals, and people from the government as well eventually. So it was more easier for us for them to reach out, and we would curate the entire idea and set up the agenda of how a program would look like.
Okay. All right. That's wonderful. Anything else you want to add on that, or you want to move to another topic?
Let's move to a different topic.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Good.
Yep. Well, the second topic is about me coming all the way to Australia.
Yeah.
Since I'm at Australia, I'd like to talk about certain things.
Yeah.
Well, I've spoken about this recently on my very recent LinkedIn post about my journey to Australia and few things about how this is more than an experience and more than manifesting that I'm here actually. And it's a whole lot of experience, Professor Mathur, coming from India to Australia. A lot of change in you
Yeah.
is being seen, and that has changed me over the last 6 months being here. Well, I was always, after my post graduation, I was always focused towards working is very important for the last 3 years. And I was working in different companies, government based organizations, United Nations, universities, trying to get all that of experiences that could be very important for going abroad. Now, people would always say that immense work experience is always a very good credential when you go abroad because it can add value to it. Well, that was one way, right? Because I do understand it's not just about the credential that has shaped me, but then it has also shaped me in terms of as a person to be more mature and
Okay.
in terms of decisions, in terms of being myself altogether.
Okay.
So I would say I'm the very different person back to who was Shreyaas in college to what he is today, doing
All
his
right.
masters
All right.
after, a certain amount of work experience.
Okay.
And
Wonderful.
when I got here in Australia, I would realize in terms of how things have changed a lot for me. I was initially in a phase where I was not sure whether I would ever go abroad. And Australia was never in the plan, to be honest. There was no planning for Australia. Well, it
Yeah.
was all my course through my work experience. Today, I'm doing my master's in environment and sustainability at
Mhm.
Monash University. Monash is one of the Group 8 universities recognized at the, you would say this is something like an Ivy League or Russell Group level, where
Yeah.
Monash is recognized in Australia.
Yeah.
And I mainly came here for the research and partnership focus over here, what Monash provides to international students over here. And coming here is something very different for me, like I mentioned. And I think I've started to realize what are the things that, being here at Australia, you need to understand the environment over here, adapt towards, working, making a lifestyle over here, connecting with peers, connecting with people around, and then figuring out your own things. So I've realized back in India to here I've started to being more independent in terms of handling my own bank work, day-to-day work, doing my own letterbox stuff, doing my own cleaning, getting my own items, because people get here very independent when they go overseas, and you have only information. support is there, of course, but then you need to learn to do things on your own, is
Yeah.
what people tell. And
Okay.
I'm starting to realize to do that slowly.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of my experiences I wanted to share about how
Okay.
things have been here. I'm trying to get myself associated again what I did in India and
Hmm.
start, a foundation for myself.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Anything else on your mind today?
Well, there's a lot of things, but I thought these two important topics could
Okay.
add
Fine.
some highlight towards
You can
what I
add some
wanted to
more.
share.
We have
Maybe I
time.
would I would request you to ask some questions if you would
No,
like to,
I'll right
because that
now.
would
I
be
will
easier.
ask it later. You go ahead with what's on your mind.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Well, maybe I could. So I've spoken about my NGO, my brainchild. I've spoken about getting here overseas. Well, how about I speak about something about my parents?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a topic, certainly. Well, parents have been the biggest support,
Hmm.
and I'm a single child. I
Yeah.
don't have any siblings.
Yeah.
And I think as a single child, everyone would understand the support from parents is that parents would always be thinking about you, your mom
Yeah.
and dad, about what you're doing every minute.
Yeah.
Today at Australia as well, I make sure that we at least connect 5 to 6 video calls and
Yeah.
10 voice calls a day. And it's
Yeah.
not like we connect once a day or a week. It's
Yeah.
both the sides,
Yeah.
reciprocating,
Yeah.
incoming and outgoing.
All
And
right.
I think back here, a couple
Yeah.
of months, my parents were here in Melbourne,
Yeah.
and we got some time to spend a vacation together. We
Yeah.
just went around. They could understand in terms of what I was trying to say. This is the country. This is how things look like. This
Yeah.
could be important for me
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
sure I could get an employment. I could earn money this way. And
Yeah.
they had certain understanding when they got here.
Yeah.
Well, one thing about my parents is that my mom and dad have supported me irrespective of whatever I've done in life,
Hmm.
starting from being into volunteering organizations
Hmm.
to working as well. And they have always been my I would say that in my ups and downs they have been my biggest friend. The I would probably say like another part of yourself, your other flesh that connects to them, where
Yeah.
they could think the same way what is going on in your mind, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Mentally and physically. And I
Yeah.
think that's very important.
Yeah.
Well, now it's the time that I'm today. This May I'm turning 25, and while I turn 25, I do realize that some responsibilities are over me right now. When they are here to support me always in the long run, this 25 years of my life, then I feel I need to invest the next 25 years of my life to take care of them. I'm
Okay.
trying to do small things where I can try to take care of my parents
Yeah.
tomorrow and make sure they get the same happiness what they
Okay.
could give me.
All
There have
right.
been a lot of experiences. Of course, I do have strict parents, but my parents are very kind, and I'm more connected with my mom when it comes to things. When it comes to uh, something where son and mom's relationship is more than being emotional and also sharing a lot of things. Yeah. When it comes to my dad, of course, yes. But then with dads, it gets like being a little more practical as well. And I would
Hmm.
get like some good motivation from my dad in terms of when I'm stuck any situation in life, he would help me navigate, be
Yeah.
in education or be in work. He would say not to stress about it and see these are the options. You need to think practically. And I started to see that in terms of thinking right now, stressing less is very important. And practically thinking about what could be done next is what my parents always tell me. And that's what I like the most. How in
Okay.
terms of I'm always stepping forward and not thinking about what has happened before. So yeah,
Okay.
this is
All right.
about the topic of my parents.
All right. Wonderful. All right. You have talked very serious things. How about something light about yourself?
Yeah,
Something
well,
which will bring out your human side.
well,
What do
there
you
is a
what
lot of things, but then probably could you be more specific to
no,
what
I
you'd like
mean,
to hear?
what do
Maybe.
you what keeps you happy, entertained? What you have talked is what you are
Yeah,
doing, but how do
right.
you enjoy life in your own way? What is it that keeps you
Okay,
happy, keeps
makes
you
sense.
going? Stuff like that. Just your lighter side.
I'm a person who loves to do a lot of things at
Yeah,
one time. Now, back to where I was to now, I think I realize I have a lot of hobbies. One is swimming.
yeah,
I'm a very good swimmer, and I've also participated at some CBSE clusters in South Zone level as well. And I love swimming. The thing about swimming is that it keeps me calm as a person and cools me down
mm,
completely.
mm,
And I could always get some next energy to do something.
mm,
And the other thing would be in terms of traveling.
mm,
Well, being around many places, I started my own travel page on Instagram a couple of years back called as Travel with Shreyaas,
mm,
where I would post about travel, food, and art in terms of what I would capture about and what I would like to talk through an experience.
mm,
So this is something which I like the most.
mm,
And here at Australia, of course, it's an amazing country, like many of them say. I'm hoping to explore some more places, reactivate my travel page, and
mm,
try to also see if I could do some content creation and learn some digital marketing on my own,
mm.
to advance it a little more.
Okay.
And the third would be in terms of me as a person when it comes to going out with friends, like to hang around, go to temples, or sometimes we probably go to the smallest things. For me, small things matter in life. Even I would call up a friend someday if I'm at my hometown, and I would go to, say, let's go have some tea and
Mm.
some samosa. That's
Ah,
like outing. You know, I think that realizes these smaller things are
yeah,
something with some small conversations that make us happy.
yeah,
Because back to when I was in school, I would always be very restless, like a kid saying, I want to go for movie, I want to go for cinemas, I want to, go for lunch, dinner. And
mm,
now I realize getting from here to there as well, I
yeah,
started to realize that in a week, how many days should I go out? How do
yeah,
I plan my, budget for it? How do I
yeah,
make sure that I
yeah.
don't waste money on a lot? And
Mm,
this is something I
mm,
realized that I've started to become, grow old right now. I start
mm,
feeling that because in terms of, habits changing, but at the
mm,
same time, I have some good friends to hang around as well,
mm,
good peers to connect with. And what I like to do the most thing, the favorite thing in my life, this is not a compulsion or something who taught me. I like to spend
mm.
minimum 3 to 4 hours on my LinkedIn every day. And
Wow.
this happens irrespective what, wherever it is,
Yeah.
irrespective I was at home, irrespective outside, I'm on a
Mm,
vacation, wherever I have data, 3 to 4 hours a day is compulsory for me on LinkedIn
okay.
because I love navigating through LinkedIn. Now, all these 8,000 followers, Professor Mathe, you see on my LinkedIn is
Yeah.
not through any paid ways or anything. It's all about connecting, doing
Okay.
projects, connecting with people. And today I have my own organic followers. I built
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
traditionally,
Yeah.
completely. And
Okay.
today I do workshops on LinkedIn and have built it, made people also, build LinkedIn profiles as well. I've done some, some programs on it as well. And I'm hoping to do few more as well in the coming days too. So
Okay.
this is something which has helped me. And I think today, Mr. Mathur, if you're meeting me as well, is because of LinkedIn,
Yeah.
because probably I see
Yeah.
there's a way that you would
Yeah.
understand that
Yeah.
he's up to something. And certainly this
Yeah.
is how I've been in calls with many people.
Right.
Many people are able to feature me. Many people have done interviews. Now I like doing this on
Yeah.
day-to-day basis. And I make sure in a week at least I meet a new person, one person in life, one new person in life. That
Mm,
person could be a professional or personal capacity,
mm-hmm.
but then I always like to talk to people and explore out in terms of what they do, what I do, how we could come to a common point in terms of friendship or in terms of working together. So I
Yeah.
believe in more of collaboration and
Mm,
more of extending, new ways of
mm.
meeting people. So this
Okay.
is what I do. I would say I'd like to keep it very simple in terms of fun is this for me. And this is what fun is, a definition that stands in terms of what I like to do the most. And I've told you all.
Okay. Wonderful. I'm very pleased to hear that, you have found your route, you found your path by now, and you're following in it, and you are enjoying it too. So great. It's my usual practice to say any final words. So last word from you.
Well, every time people would ask me, on the last words would be like any last words for motivation to youngsters, but I'm not going to do that today because I believe my last words would be just one thing: do it the way you want, okay? But do it the right way you want. Do it the way you want, but do it
Yeah.
the right way you want. And this is something based on everything I spoke about today,
Yeah.
all the experiences and I've been doing in my life. So
Yeah.
my life is a story of myself, and you
Yeah.
make your own story.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Shreyas. This is very, very enlightening business hearing you telling us about yourself and what you've achieved. So thank you very much. It validates
Thank
my
you.
concept of this channel. because the
Yep.
concept was that, young Indians are very good and the society doesn't accept it and recognize it. And the only way for that to happen is for me to give them a channel and let them talk instead of me talking,
Absolutely.
instead of me asking questions, let them talk. Because how could I ever know what to ask you in all this?
Yeah, that's right.
Is your
I
life,
think
is
the
it?
Vidpeds was one series where I got to feel it very different. Me talking to myself. It
Yeah,
felt like Professor Mathur is a listener, then I'm here. But then I think it's a new experience altogether. I
yeah,
never knew I'm going to talk about these topics today morning at say like 11 o'clock in the morning
yeah,
once I just wake up a hour before. But
yeah.
then these are things that always go in my mind.
This
And I
is
thought of
what,
just sharing it
see,
with you.
if you want to know what is on people's mind, you have to give
That's
them a
right.
chance. You can't tell them what to
Absolutely.
talk about. So, okay, so thank you for validating the concept of
Thank
the
you.
channel. And let's end it here today. Don't go away. I want to talk to you offline. I do talk offline.
Absolutely.
I don't like to talk online because it's your time, but I will talk. Okay. All right. Let's end it here. Thank you so
Certainly.
much, Shreyas.
Thank you
I'll be
so
back
much.
with
Thank you.
another young person or
Yeah.
an expert soon. Till then, bye.